Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Kickstarter backer hangout that we're doing for Oath of the Frozen King. I am Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of Absolute Tabletop, and I have with me here the three other guys that work at Absolute Tabletop. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to my compatriot here, Tim. He's going to lead us in a little toast. So if you have something to drink, make sure you grab it, and then we'll get started with the main event.
Hey everybody, I am Tim. So if you raise your glasses with me, if you watch the channel Tabletop Terrors, you know that James and I love to do Tabtarian toast. So it's good luck. James, will you join me?
I will, but there's going to be a delay.
So you go first.
Okay. May you mend the first break.
May you kill the first snake.
And may you conquer everything you undertake.
I was about to jump in there for a second, but you guys kept it going. I was like,
that actually was not bad. Good job, guys. Good job.
The trick is to start talking when he's still talking.
Yeah, exactly.
The key is to make it.
So yeah, we're the four guys from Absolute Tabletop. If you're here, presumably you backed our project, Oath of the Frozen King, our first adventure kit. So if you're here and you backed us on Kickstarter, thank you so much for doing that. And thank you furthermore for joining us tonight. I think it's going to be fun. We're just going to kind of hang out, talk about who we are, why we do what we do, what Oath of the Frozen King is, what it looks like. We're going to share some of the page designs with you and also some cool art and some of the maps that we're working on. And then we'll kind of be around to answer any questions you might have. So we're going to try and go for about 90 minutes. So we'll hope that you'll stick around and hang out with us. So I think the first thing we kind of want to just briefly talk about is just introduce ourselves and talk about Absolute Tabletop. So just for me, like I said, my name is Matt. I run the channel A Fistful of Dice, which you might be familiar with on YouTube. I started the channel in 2012 and started making videos about RPGs, specifically D&D and Pathfinder and stuff. And the channel kind of grew from there. And eventually I made connections with some of these guys playing games online. And from there, Absolute Tabletop was born. And I sort of am kind of the editor, I guess, would be my main thing. I do a lot of the editing and proofreading that goes into the books, and I also do a lot of the layout as well as doing writing. So that's me. I'll go ahead and pass it over from my left to right, and we can go with Barker.
Hi, everybody. My name is Barker. I run the YouTube channel called Be a Better Game Master, and I'm also part of this comedy troupe of errors called Absolute Tabletop. The key is to make it learn as we go, the hard way every time sort of method, but I would do it again all over. And most of the books that I put my full self behind are the Be a Better Game Master supplements, like system agnostic roll tables and fun stuff like that. But like Matt, I help with writing. Unlike Matt, I do not help much with layout because I am not as InDesign proficient as my bros here. But we all have found this kind of symbiosis, if I'm allowed to make up words as I go, in between us. And there's a Pluto and Charon vibe for everybody in Absolute Tabletop. We all kind of orbit around each other, and the central focus of that is you guys. Thank you very much for supporting Oath of the Frozen King. Thank you very much for joining the Facebook group and riding along this journey with us. This is a pretty cool time, and thank you all very much. Who's next, Matt?
I think it's going to be James next.
Sweet. Hey guys, my name is James. I am the other half of Tabletop Terrors with Tim. And I want to echo the sentiment that both of them expressed. Thank you so much for backing Oath of the Frozen King, for supporting us. To those of you that have been here since the beginning, or since near it, thank you very much. And the very same to those of you that just joined us for Oath of the Frozen King and can't wait to get your hands on this thing. I guess our plan was to kind of all tell the same story, but I think we kind of got it covered. We're really good friends. We like each other. We enjoy RPGs. We're making books together. Yeah, Absolute Tabletop has been really amazing. We just crossed our second anniversary, which was really cool, on September 4th. That was a big deal. We were talking about it, and it feels simultaneously like it has been 10 years and 10 days. It feels like it's been so short and so long, not even sure how that works. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about some Frozen King, talk about some AbTab with you guys. And like I said, I can't thank you guys enough.
All right, that leaves Tim.
So I'm the other half of Tabletop Terrors, and I work with these guys to just have fun. I think that the main thing that we really all try to do is make things we'd really use at the table. So one of our processes is, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had this to actually prep for our game tonight? Oh, okay, yeah, we should try to write that. And we had such a good rapport just talking about wouldn't it be cool ifs that it sort of easily morphed into what Absolute Tabletop became. Like, hey, do you guys actually want to write some of that stuff down? And so it's been amazing. I love being a part of this, and I love that we're able to hang out with all of you. And you all are the reason why it's real fun and not just for nerds in a Facebook Messenger. So thank you.
Absolutely. And if you guys enjoy sort of interacting with us and hanging out with us, we do have a awesome Facebook community that we are honored to head up. The link is down in the description below if you want to click down there. We just passed 4,000 members in the Facebook group, which is awesome. But it's still a great place to go and talk about RPGs, interact with us and other awesome people, and run games and stuff like that. So you should definitely go check it out. So one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about and that I think we'd all be happy to discuss is how the adventure kit came to be. And it was an idea originally put forth by Tim, but it was also something that sort of organically happened over the course of a few supplements as we started moving towards more modular sort of plug and play sort of things. And I think it actually started with Barker's Be a Better Game Master supplements. I think that those are kind of like the foundation upon which adventure kits are built, because we all started including things in our adventures and in our supplements that were very like Be a Better Game Master sort of inspired. So maybe Barker, you can talk a little bit about that. Like what is your philosophy when it comes to writing those books? And like, do you see this sort of like that progression from like Be a Better Game Master into the adventure kits?
He doesn't even see the supplements anymore. He just sees the roll tables.
He just sees the roll tables.
I see in roll tables.
I see encounters, locations, NPCs.
It's like the Matrix for me. Yeah. It's like, oh man, my whole world is a D million table, D infinite table.
It's the D1 million.
It's the D1 million. Okay, so inside jokes aside, that's an outside joke, but anyway, now it is. The Be a Better Game Master books are. They say Barker on the front, but that is really unfair because every single person in this hangout jumps in and pounds out these roll tables because they are ultimate system agnostic. You know, they do not require mechanics or rule sets. You can use them for Dungeons and Dragons, for Pathfinder, for Fate, for Dread, for whatever you want. And I mean, as long as you determine that what's in the book is useful, which we all definitely believe you will. But that, like Matt has said, is kind of evolved into like this cool mesh. And it's actually Tim, I think, that gets the credit for the adventure kit mesh, because he was the one who's like, hey guys, I have this good idea. And in true Tim form, he's in true Tim, you can't see it until it's done form. I've just been working on this for a little bit while, and then he'll give us like a 30-page Google Doc that's just like just a little while. Just there are edits in there since 2009 when Google Drive was formed, and but this mesh is something that, and this is something that I kind of wanted to mention about Oath too. It's perfect with the roll tables and the modularity of the books. In Oath of the Frozen King, it's kind of you kind of unknowingly backed something that in our minds is very revolutionary for Absolute Tabletop, because it's a really solid look at what you can expect from us in the future, not just in adventure kits, because we've talked about this a lot. Matt is designing every adventure kit that you'll find from here on out, so you can expect that sort of consistency. But other things that maybe we'll mention, are going to be based on that, half we make and half we give you the tools to make your own kind of philosophy. And I think that's what you can expect from us in the future.
So something I realized about adventure kits and how they came to be is when we started Absolute Tabletop, we talked about the idea was we make what we'd use. And that holds true in a lot of cases because that's really it. Basically is like, well, we want to use this. We want to do this. We want to, we need this. But we wrote a few adventures, and I feel like, at least for me, I was like, well, I wouldn't use this because I know it so well. Like I was too close to it that I'm like, this is so good. And so I feel like the adventure kits, certainly not to minimize sort of the ingenuity that goes into it, are the first product from us that I can really use, and I'm not too sort of inside it, as well as I can play in an Oath of the Frozen King game and not feel like I know what's going to happen. That, to me, is the biggest thing. I've always wanted to play in some of our adventures, but I can't because I know exactly what's around every corner.
And something that we've talked about internally is if we didn't make adventure kits, someone else would have. Because I feel like this concept of what Barker basically described as half lore and half be a better game master supplements, like that half that roll table and customization, for me is the sweet spot. Because I look at the books that we had written previously, and like Matt said, you look at the progression into like Stone Rift, which Stone Rift is like Dwarven Thunder City meets Keep on the Borderland with a tiny adventure in the back. And it was like, wow, this is really cool. And then what if we took this a step further? And I don't know if we could go back.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about a lot in this process, is the fact that there isn't really anything on the market like this right now, but it's something that everyone's already doing. Whenever you take an adventure module and you're running it for your table, you don't, start on page 1 and run page 1 and flip to the next page and run the next page. You go through, you read it a couple times, you take out stuff that you think is cool, you tweak it here and there. Most times, people who are running, I can't think of a single adventure module as I'm sitting here, but if people who run Curse of Strahd, for instance,
Son of Citadel.
Or Keep on the Borderlands by the unfashionable Gary Gygax. People can run the same module and it'll never be the same because everyone puts their own spin on it. And people are already doing this with adventure modules. And so it was one of those things where we were all like, what if we just take the cool parts of an adventure module and give them to people and let them decide what they want to do with it? So instead of saying, all right, the adventurers move into this room, it looks like this, and there's this encounter, and there's this NPC, it's like, let's just give them a bunch of cool locations, a bunch of encounters that can work in any location, a bunch of NPCs, and then just a ton of roll tables to fill in the gaps in the story, in the map, in whatever. And I think that it's kind of the fact that people have latched onto it, I think, is telling that that's sort of what they're looking for in their prep and in adventures they want to run, is just, I want just cool stuff to be able to throw in wherever I want it. And like we've been saying, we make what we use. This is how we prep for games. This is what we like to include in our prep. And so that's why it sort of works for us.
Someone mentioned Horde of the Dragon Queen, and I was just explaining an adventure kit to my nephew today, and I used Horde of the Dragon Queen as an example, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if, like, at the end of this book, like, if 1/5 of this book were just kind of a packet for me to have in front of me with bullet points of the entire adventure and maybe some art and some stats and, like, just everything I'd need, so I didn't have to really have the book with me, and adventure kit.
Yeah. Another thing, I forgot what I was going to say because I was looking at the chat and other things. I'm like, I have a great thing. Here we go. Oh,
we shall go to the moon again, is what James
we're going to do it, guy. Oh, but you're the JFK impersonator. I feel like that would be something he would say.
He would.
Okay, so, yeah, no, I lost it. Sorry, guys.
It was probably completely revolutionary, too. It was probably going to change the face of
No.
It was the adventure kit of comments.
Yeah.
No, my grandmother would have said, "Must have been a lie."
Oh,
If you forgot it, must have been a lie.
that's
Oh,
how
wow.
that works. That's how that works.
Barker's grandmother thinks that you're a liar, James.
She's also apparently from the Northeast.
Yeah.
Hey.
Apparently, I didn't know that.
Stranger things have happened.
So another thing we want to do on this stream is, as we're sort of talking about things and talking about our process and Oath of the Frozen King and stuff, we're also sort of collecting questions that people are asking in the chat. And when one comes up and we want to answer it, we'll go ahead and answer it. And we got a question here from Erasmus Expeditions, who is Jeremy, one of the awesome guys in our Facebook community. And he asks, what was the thing that made Oath the first adventure kit? Basically, how did we decide to make Oath of the Frozen King the first adventure kit? And I think Tim can probably talk to this a little bit more, but I know that it was just the one that we started working on. It was around Christmas time last year, and Tim sent me a link to this document that he was tinkering with, and I spent Christmas Eve with my in-laws sitting on my laptop working on Oath of the Frozen King and just getting really jazzed about this idea that Tim had sort of thrown at me. So I'm not really sure how he came to it, but I know that for me, it's just because it was just the first one that we started working on.
Yeah, so the idea is that the true creative process is often, I think sometimes we kind of look through it like through rose-colored glasses. But if you look at like the original Star Wars, it is what it is because George Lucas had time constraints, budget constraints, and he was working with what he had. So he didn't, glorify the creative process. He just made what he could. For the adventure kits, we work with heroic maps. They're incredible. And so I literally thought, oh, you know what? I want to base this. There's going to be maps in here somewhere. I went to Drive Through RPG. I searched for heroic maps, and I just literally pulled up the first one on the list, which happened to be like Lair of the Ice Queen or something. And so I was like, okay, cool. Drop that map in there, and was still figuring out and getting my head around how this was going to work and how to make it. So I dropped that map. In fact, it's still in the original brainstorm document. There's a full page in our Google Doc, and it's got a paste of like the JPEG that I snipped, dropped it in there, and just started making notes. And it was just a couple of degrees away from what the map was already named. I named it something like Tomb of the Frozen King. And then I do this thing where when I have to show somebody something, I immediately have to make it better in my mind because I want them to like it. So right before I sent it to Matt, Tomb of the Frozen King, I was like, oh, Oath of the Frozen King. And then I sent it to him just because it sounded cooler and I wanted to impress my gaming buddy designer. And that's really how it happened, sort of incidentally.
So what I remembered, well, I think will perfectly tie into the next thing. I finally remember what I wanted to say. The beauty of adventure kits also, aside from the fact that they're highly usable, the beauty as a publisher and a person that has a lot of worlds that they want to play in and see played in and write for, like Gloam and Harbinger and Kror and Aeronath and NK, all these worlds, and only so much time that you can't write whole books for everything. There's only so much that fits on the schedule. Adventure kits are perfect because it allows us to kind of dig a little hole and say, guys, check it out. This is one little slice of Kror. And it gives you so much lore in it, but it's so usable. And it's not just a beginning to end adventure kit. Oh, I ran that. Sorry, that's it. It's like, no, if there was a Kror adventure kit, you could run 10 games in Kror. And okay, at some point, they're going to start getting kind of similar, and it's going to require you to reskin it a little bit more, change things. But with different players, I mean, you could use the same one over and over, and if you're clever enough, have a whole Kror campaign. And as people that love these worlds and want to really put out stuff for them, and certainly for people that ask, hey, when do we see more of this? When can we see more of that? It's really awesome for us to be able to release it because it's so helpful, so easy to use, a really cool product, and it allows us to kind of dabble a little bit in a bunch of different things without saying, all right, guys, we'll see you in a year. We're going to write one book about one thing.
Something else that I want to just mention too about the adventure kit is, for a while I was enamored with single page adventures. And so I was kind of like looking at, single page adventures and things that like, I think for a while I was trying to pitch James on the idea. Before I even brought it to AbTab, I was like, one-page dungeon. It's a one-page dungeon, and you pull it out of the binder, and the concept was that it was a map with icons on it. And then there was a separate sheet of things that the icons could be. And that's kind of where the idea started. And I think it's funny because the design credo was, I want people to run whatever we make like they run raids in an online game. I want them to say, hey, you want to run Oath tonight? Like they would say, hey, you want to run Blackrock Spire? And so far, there was no RPG product that did that. And so I remember thinking, well, what could we do to make that possible? And I think the answer is, don't make everything randomized. That is a failing of many RPG products. If everything's randomized, nothing has a tone. And people love tone just as much as they love character, I think. So give it a tone, give it a skeleton to rest inside of, this really cohesive framework, and then randomize the elements of that framework, and there's an adventure kit. And I think by doing that, it allows you to run something in an ice world no matter what the ice world is. If that makes sense.
Erasmus Expeditions, Jeremy says, today I learned adventure kits are Tim's one-page adventure. I can't stress to you enough how much adventure kits were pitched. Not that this is a bad thing, but adventure kits were pitched as at most 18 pages. There's going to be 5 encounters. There's going to be a roll table. We're just going to make sure we can change them so easily. And I'm sitting there like, listen, this is a really cool idea, but we all know in about a couple weeks, this thing's going to be a 56-page book on Kickstarter. I didn't really have that much foresight, but that's basically what it became, was like, that's just how it works. That's kind of crazy.
I think that's kind of like the genesis of every single Absolute Tabletop book is, hey, listen, guys, it's only going to be blank.
Yeah, exactly. starting with the caveats.
Let's have a meeting tonight. It's only going to be 30 minutes. It's kind of part of the process.
Yeah, I think that part of that is that we're all very obsessive creatives. We really like to just really get into something and just really do it. And a perfect example is we were all hanging out online and working on layout for the book. And Barker was helping me out with the toolbox portion, which is the big section in the back of the book. It's just a ton of different roll tables and tools for generating monsters, NPCs, locations, stuff like that. And Barker was looking at the roll tables, and I'm sitting there, I'm laying the book out, and Barker goes, we should just make the thematic phrases like a D100 table. Now, mind you, it's a D10 table at the time that he says this.
Oh, whatever.
And he says, we should make it a D100 table because it'd be so easy. And the thing was, he was right. And we compromised and made it a D20 table instead of a D100 table. And then we decided to add a name generator into it. So we're always just thinking about different things that we can add and cool things that we can put into a book. And so actually, the adventure kit was both easier and more difficult than a normal adventure module because we really had to edit ourselves and make sure that we were not creating a book that was going to be bloated and unusable. Everything that went into the book needed a purpose, and it needed to serve some sort of duty at the table. We didn't want anything in there that was going to take away from the usability of the book. So that was sort of an interesting challenge as well. But
yeah, so specifically to that point, because Barker, I could tell he felt a little on blast there, but
never. You guys, no.
To put it into words specifically, with if you want to find people to collaborate with, find people that when you say a good idea, they don't want to do it, but they realize that no matter how much they don't want to do it, it's such a good idea that you absolutely have to. There was a part of Matt that was like, no, that's the worst idea. We can't do that. Don't do it. But he's like, you're so right. We have to.
Yeah,
That's
that's
absolute
exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. Like, I wouldn't want to work with people that weren't wanting to do more. Like,
Exactly.
You know? So
we're like, no, it's fine. We just D10 it'll be fine.
exactly,
You know?
exactly. And that's like, what does that amount to? It amounts to me hitting insert 10 on my table in InDesign. You know, it really is not a big deal, but it's just a good example of we can never do something small. We always want to do it the best that we can, and we always want to make it worth your while to download and look at and potentially give us money for. So that's just really important to all of us.
And I think it was mentioned earlier that this has been a practice in limiting ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And that is the perfect example. Because my first thought was, yeah, let's do it at D100. And raise your hands if you think that by the end of that day, I wouldn't have put 100 freaking thematic phrases up there. Because like I would have, but I don't think. I think it's better that it's a D20 because it's a little more focused. They're all a little bit better. It's not as kind of stupid random, and the book is lean. The book is something that you'd really be able to have in front of you while you're running the game. And that lean, kind of mean and ready to play on the fly feel it's difficult to limit yourself to that. But it's been a really rewarding experience personally.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've done 2-page books and we've done 120-page books, and the adventure kit is in this perfect sweet spot of around 50 to 60 pages right now, and that's probably what it's going to be in the final page count after we include all of the art and maps and everything. And I think that's just about perfect. I love the idea of just like a nice 50-page book that you can just flip through and use at the table. It's not going to be too difficult to find what you're looking for, and I'm glad that we were able to hit that.
And this is an ab-tab deep cut. This is going back in the catalog. We have a cookbook. And yes, I'm serious. Go to our website, absolutetabletop.com. It has real recipes that I think are very good. We did not make these recipes up. We collected, we raided our grandma's chest of drawers kind of thing. And the book was, James, was it the night before?
It wasn't quite the night before, but it was
edging up. It was edging up.
Here's the thing. Enough. The important thing is it was after writing and editing.
I'll get there.
I know, but I'm saying it doesn't matter if it was 2 weeks out, 1 week out. We were done.
James.
It was also 2 weeks after Dragon Grin.
Yes.
After Copperjack.
Yeah. Well, no, after Deep Vault.
Deep Vault.
Oh, after Deep Vault. Sorry, yeah. But still, our biggest book to date at the time.
Yes. So. I understand. It's true what James is saying. It's very important to the point that the writing deadline was over. The reason why I'm telling you this is to tell you that. So there's a tiny payoff. The night that he's laying this book out and Barker's helping him by scanning through and proofreading it as he's laying it out, the things page after page after page. And I have this idea that in the holiday section or the holy days section for our world, there's a Christmas style kind of thing, and there are these tieflings who sing. And so I'm like, dude, Vylok Tiefling Christmas Carol. And so I'm photoshopping this reel, and to this day, if you go to the cookbook towards the end, there's an actual to the tune of Deck the Halls. There's a Vylok Christmas Carol. The point is, I added it after the deadline of writing. So it was the wrong time to have a good idea. So we're sitting in the Hangout the other night, and I knew this. I'm a reformed addict, so I understand. I'm like, okay, Matt, Barker, what we need to put in the next adventure kit, I thought of something. It's not going to go in this one since Barker's literally laying it out. And this was not reverse psychology. I was seriously like, but for the next one, I really thought of something we need, and we'll have to put it in there. Matt was like, what? I go, a list of NPC names. Because what's the first thing a player is going to ask? They're not going to ask, what's your secret? They're not going to say, what equipment does he have? They're not going to say, what distinguishing mark? They're going to say, what's your name, soldier? And so I was like, yeah, so next time. And there was a pause. And Matt goes, I kind of want that in this one. And I was like, seriously? And Barker goes, yeah, I mean, I really feel like we need that in this one. I was like, hey, you guys said it. I wasn't pushing for it. So that's exactly what we're talking about. I mentioned an idea for the next one. And we're like, no, to do this right, to make this something we would really use at the table that has no holes in it, because the last thing we want is for people to say, oh man, that book's really good. It's just one little thing. The reason why I got a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes is because there's no NPC name table. It's the last thing we want. So anyway, super long story to tell you some AbTab history about the Christmas Carol and to make that point.
But I think that that point is important because that shows we've all grown. He was wearing glasses, so we could tell he had grown. But to bring it all the way back, somebody asked, okay, how did it get set? How was it decided that that was the first thing? Tim found the heroic maps. He started writing it. He showed it. And him and Matt were working on it, actually, while we were doing something else. I think that I don't know the timeline, but I think at the time we were getting some play tests ready. We were working on Harbinger. I was working on some website stuff. I just remember not looking at this adventure kit at all for a while. We were working on other stuff. And Matt, I want to say Matt and Tim had a discussion, but it was Matt's idea finally that was like, hey, why isn't this set in Dragon Grin? And it was like, well, we wanted it to be generic. We wanted it to be really usable. And he was like, no, it should definitely be in Dragon Grin. And we talked about it and we decided that it should be. And I feel like that is such an important integral part because that allows us to, like I said earlier, inject so much lore, give you a little slice of Dragon Grin that you can use rather than saying, here's a bunch of lore, have your players read it before you can ever play. Now it's like, no, you just have this really cool thematic book that you can use right off the shelf. And so I just wanted to kind of turn that back around and say that's how it ended up being set in Dragon Grin. Of course, people asked, are there going to be adventure kits set in other places? Absolutely, without question.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, we had mentioned earlier that we have so many cool ideas for different worlds and we have so many sort of campaign settings that we love to run games in that we don't necessarily have the time or the resources in order to do a full-fledged campaign book with, lore about the world and different locations and stuff like that. But it's like, but we can give you this little slice of the world and have you experience the world the best way that we know how, which is to play in that world. Reading a campaign book is one thing, but actually venturing in that world is a different thing altogether. And so I love the idea of someone picking up Oath of the Frozen King, running it for their group, and it spawning, dozens of different adventures for their group in Dragon Grin, and I just think that's really cool. So another good question that we got here from for the XP official, do you think it's possible to make an entire campaign from the adventure kit? I don't think that you could necessarily do an entire campaign. I think that there are tools in the adventure kit that would benefit you over the course of a campaign. Would you guys agree with that?
I'd ask you what the definition of a campaign is. Like, let's say, because if someone says a campaign is 4 sessions or more, I think there's enough in an adventure kit to pack 4 or more solid sessions of just using all the material that you find in there. Just going through beforehand, kind of picking and choosing. You can absolutely stretch it out. If you're looking for that more light, non-railroady adventure kit feel, then yeah, what Matt's saying, it'll help you inspire the rest of the campaign or lead into other parts of a campaign or create kind of the hub of a campaign where different branches lead off in different directions. And that will be probably the best use for it when you're talking campaigns. But Oath of the Frozen King, you can do that, a 5-session dungeon delve in using Oath of the Frozen King, using that adventure kit. I'd bet it.
Yeah, and I would... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I agree completely. And I think that another thing we're sort of shooting for is this adventure kit will be, is modular and can easily be reskinned and changed to some degree. As far as like changing how you describe things, can completely put it in a different place. In the future, when we have more adventure kits, even though some of them will be for different places, it will be very easy to say, oh, I really like that encounter from the Gloam adventure kit. Even though I'm running a game in Nkea, I want to go grab that and we're going to use that. I'm just going to use the descriptors from the Nkea one so that it matches. And then you can absolutely run a campaign for years once we've got maybe 3 or 4 adventure kits, and you can absolutely run a campaign on this.
And I was just going to mention that the other cool thing, because I see what Matt's saying, and I think that it would be a really good I don't want to say campaign notes, but it's like the adventure kit in that overview, it's bulleted out, but it gives you some meaty backdrop. So if I was going to run a campaign with the kit, what I would do is just look, because we have the background. It's very brief, 3 bullets, some really good conflicts, and then some other little notes in there. What I would do, and I learned this from Matt, is I would place some pieces on the board. So I'd run those first 3 or 4 sessions that Barker said, but then what happens when they leave the Mauve Black Ice? Because we've given you some broad strokes of what factions are interested, why they care, who's involved. And there are a few cool tables that are also like for generating quests. So I think this could be the first to kind of combine 2 answers. The kit could be like 4 or 5 adventures, but then using the lore and some of the tables in the toolbox, I think you could easily stretch this for another 4 or 5 and kind of have a cool arc. Because what is a campaign other than just, you know, an arc of stories? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And like Barker said, I think that there's enough content in Oath between, you know, the pre-built encounters and locations and stuff, and then all of the stuff in the toolbox to generate your own encounters and locations, where you really could get 4 or 5 sessions out of it very, very easily. So yeah, I think that's super on point. So we're about halfway through our stream now. So I think we are going to continue to take questions and answer them, but we're also going to be doing some screen sharing here and show you guys some of the layout and some of the art that we have going. So let me pull up my InDesign file here, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully this works. Hangouts has been kind of weird with screen sharing. Are you guys able to see that?
Yep.
Awesome. So this is a completely unfinished layout. We haven't placed most of the art yet, but most of the content is in here. And we really just wanted to show you the tables and how we're laying out the encounters and things like that in this book for you to be able to use it super, super easily. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Oh, I'm in the, hang on. Go. I do know how to use InDesign, believe it or not.
Yeah, I sent him a tutorial video yesterday, so
Yeah.
we've been really trying to crank this out before the live
We'll
stream.
figure it out.
I
Yeah.
sent him it's actually a video of an InDesign file that he's screen sharing the video to make it look like
I'm just screen sharing the video right now. So I do kind of want to talk about this. This is kind of a cool thing for me. For AbTab's entirety, most of the layout has been done by myself and James. Barker has been a huge help with us as well, helping us with layout, and he's sort of taking the reins and really wanting to learn more with it. So we're all sort of dipping our hands into the layout pool here, but it's really cool for me because I've seen our layout come such a long way, and I love all of our old books. But if you look at something like The Wayward Wanderer or Brook, and you look at this book, just in sheer terms of readability and how open and breathable the pages feel, I feel like Oath is kind of the peak of our layout. And part of that is the awesome page elements that we've gotten from one of our artists, John Pintar. He helped us with the page background texture, and he did all of these wonderful sort of flourishes that you see in the corners of the pages. And he also helped us develop the tables. You know, we had the tables, and he gave us some great feedback on those. But I'm just, as a layout sort of fiend and someone who really enjoys laying books out, I really like the way that this book looks. I think that it's going to flow really nicely, and I think that it's going to be something that people are going to get a lot of use of in prepping for their games, but also during the game itself, you know, flipping to the table that you need, rolling, finding exactly what you need. Little things like having these multi-roll tables where you're intended to roll the dice multiple times, and having the little super skip script 3 to very quickly tell you, roll the D12 3 times. Little things like that. And the culmination of this for me, and I want to pat myself on the back a little bit and also give some props to my wife who helped me with this. we were really struggling. And when I say we were, I mean that I was really struggling with how we were going to lay out the assets of the adventure, the locations, the encounters, the NPCs, the monsters. Because typically when you lay out an RPG book, you're doing this flow, this 2-column flow where text runs into each other and it all just flows throughout the book. But the adventure kit is different because they're intended to be separate pieces that fit together. And so what we ended up doing, and this was after a suggestion from my wife who said, why don't you just make everything in boxes? We essentially created little stat blocks for everything. So each location is its own little self-contained box. It's very easy to find what you're looking for on the page. If you're running the Hall of Bone and Ice, if you look up from the book, you're not going to have to look back down and scan through 2 columns of text. You're going to know it's the box top right. It's number 4, Hall of Bone and Ice. There it is right there. And if we go down to our monsters or non-player characters, you'll see that they have a very similar sort of look and feel, where you have these little boxes with all the information that you need, their personality, their appearance, equipment. You can very easily look across and see exactly what you need. And these are sort of a work in progress, but these are our monster stat blocks done in a very similar sort of style. Very easy to find what you're looking for, super simplified. And I'm just really happy with it. And I think it's looking really nicely. And I'm really looking forward to sort of finalizing and finessing everything, getting the art in there, and getting it off to you guys.
And can I just mention something about this? Can you zoom back into the ice skeleton there?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So.
And if you click on you to make
click
sure
on yourself.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is really cool is, and again, this comes through saying, hey, this needs to change. You're going to notice that all of these monsters not only have hit points, armor class, and roll bonuses based on, what sort of tier they are, but also the damage by level for levels 1 through 20. So you can flip to this page and run this ice skeleton for any level party right away. And I love that concept. For me, I want to be able to run this on the fly. And that is one of those little things that we changed in the process of actually laying it out. That's like, hey, this makes the book the most usable. And so Matt did a killer job of making that look clear and gorgeous, and I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, this was the book that we designed the most in the layout stage. Like Matt said, the books are kind of, you put font on the page, you put text on the page, you decide the font, you decide the colors, but then you kind of just drop it in. And this was very designed. So yeah, like you said, that's taken a little bit, but I think it's really going to make the next one better, and obviously this one. But basically it's like going forward, like you said, we're at the peak, and this is a huge step forward for us. I feel like it's going to be so beautiful in print. Yeah,
definitely. And I think Barker mentioned this earlier, but we're not just designing this adventure kit. We're designing every single adventure kit because we want them to all have a similar feel. We want them to all work the same way, so that if you use one adventure kit, you know exactly what to do with another one. And I'm really happy with how it's turning out. And I think that once we get art and stuff in here and really fill out some of the negative space that we have going on and stuff like that, it's going to look great. So yeah. And if you haven't seen our simplified monster stat blocks, if you haven't looked at the playtest yet, we include rules for how to use these really simple stat blocks. We're really happy with how they turned out. And like Tim mentioned, they're usable with every single level, which is not something that you will typically get with a stat block in D&D. Normally a monster is sort of designed to be used, for a certain challenge rating. But these guys, these ice skeletons, they would be a minor threat for whatever level you want to do. And if you wanted to run it for first level or 20th level, the ice skeleton would work pretty much the same way. So I'm really happy with how that turned out as well.
Yeah, and 5th edition is the perfect system for this, because we've gotten questions. Well, are you going to make adventure kits for other systems? Maybe, but with bounded accuracy and the fact that the armor class, hit points, and roll bonus stays the same, that makes it very easy, because now that can be one stat block and then the damage increases. So that's a low-level threat to adventurers of any level, and that's a cool thing. And the bounded accuracy really helped in making the toolbox with the the traps and everything like that. So kudos to 5e.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I wanted to say, Matt, you kind of scrolled over a few pieces of art. I think we might as well show those off. I'll show off a couple as well. Are we happy with showing off I think there were two. I saw a troll and a Frozen King.
I would actually prefer to show off the art that we have in the folder because those are placeholder arts, and I think at least one of them is an older version of. So that was just me placing art on the page to make sure that I had room for art and to see what it would look like. So, but we do have some art to show. I'm not sure who's got that on deck, but you can go ahead and screen share, and I'll stop doing it on mine.
Yeah, I have that already. I was like, well, we might. I didn't see it quickly enough. I was like, well, they saw it. We might as well go for it. But you're like, hey, cool it with that.
That ain't finished.
You're like, no. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna screen share, and hopefully it will work. If I remember, that's not the button to do. There we go. All right, application window. Here we go. Okay. Is that working? Oh, hey.
This
yes,
guy.
it is. Yes, it is.
This guy.
I did the same thing. I'm like, hey, we'll just show it real fast, and then we'll tease it, you know. No, I totally just right-clicked on one of them and forgot what was going to happen when I clicked screen share. So, you guys can talk about it, but basically, we're going to look at. We have three pieces of art to show you. They are, in my opinion, going to go in order of coolness, or at least the third one is going to be a huge payoff, in my opinion. But this here's the ice skeleton, and this guy's a beaut. This is a full-size NPC, or not NPC, a monster, and we're really happy with it.
That's actually
I don't know what to say.
Photo. That's a photo of Boromir about 20 years after the events of Fellowship of the Ring.
No, so this was done by one of our artists, Jake Perez, who we've worked a lot with in the past. As far as I'm concerned, whenever we need a creature, whenever we need something weird and scary, we go to Jake Perez because he does just the coolest looking monsters. And if you've been with us in the past, if you've looked at like Horror at Misty Meadows, books like that, he does all the cool, the tar zombies, T-Rex, the tar skeleton, all that kind of stuff.
Can you click on me if you haven't?
Yes, you are clicked on.
Okay, just making sure.
This ain't amateur hour, James. I know what I'm doing.
Well, it was amateur hour like 10 minutes ago, so.
Well, now it's not amateur hour. It's past
now it's
that
just
hour.
amateur 15 minutes. No,
yeah, exactly.
It's amateur noon.
Hangouts, from what I understand now, changed to where if you are clicked on, it doesn't matter. It'll still pop up for you on your end, which confused me as well.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's why I wanted to make sure, because now I just can't tell if I don't have it open. But so I'm going to jump over to the next piece of
real
art.
Quick. I just want to mention one element that covers the skeleton, which is look at the ice. It's difficult to tell. I don't know if you can. Maybe you could zoom in without changing pictures. I don't want you to do that. Yeah, there you go. So if you scroll up a little bit to the rib cage, well, the foot.
Oh, I thought for sure you were talking about the foot, so I just ran there.
If you look, it's on the rib cage as well, and it's one of those cool details that Jake added that makes this just a different kind of monster. I love that. And then if you scroll up to the face,
dude, the face it gets me every time. Oh gosh,
I want this T-shirt, just that on a gray shirt would just kill it.
And so the detail of this boot is just, I haven't actually looked at this close, but this boot is just awesome. It's amazing.
It's worn leather. So anyway, I'm in love with what Jake does. He's excellent at his job.
Yeah. So let's see. I don't know if it's the next one or if it's two over there. Whew, I got lucky there. So this here is the Zealot. This is one of the NPCs. I'm actually correct in that sense. Yeah, I think.
No, you're actually wrong. That's Glenn Danzig.
Another monster?
No, that's Glenn Danzig.
I was sure
this is a monster, James. Yeah.
It is a monster.
I thought so. I was like, I thought I actually had it right that time.
No, but if you look really close, there's a word inscribed into the obsidian dagger. Do you know what it is?
Is it mother?
Mother.
It's not really. I zoomed in like a scrub. I'm sorry, guys. Look at his teeth. Oh, these are the teeth of a monster, and you got this is just really good.
Dude, he does have beautiful mouth.
He has such beautiful hair for someone who is in the frozen ices. Like really, just the volume.
I almost spit Crystal Pepsi all over my Yeti.
Good.
Wow.
And then
said one person ever. My microphone.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, it's time for the next one, was what I was going to say.
Drum roll, James.
Well, hold on. Just one.
Okay, yeah, that's why I'm just saying.
really zoom into the obsidian dagger, because to me this looked like when I first saw it and opened it up, I just thought the level of detail. It looks like someone really carved that thing out of obsidian.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's like a World of Warcraft weapon. Like I want to right click that zealot and see the stats of that thing.
This is my new profile picture.
Love it.
All right, you can go ahead.
Okay, so
beginning.
the next piece of art is one that we are extremely excited about. We have a lot of really cool art, don't get me wrong, but as far as the art we're showing off today, this is without question my favorite piece of art that is currently finished. If you look at the latest,
this was a stretch goal as well.
Yes, yeah, this was a stretch goal, and it is amazing. So,
and this is by John Pintar.
This
is this
what?
Yes.
So this is an isometric map by John Pintar of the Frozen King's Lair, the mauve black ice, what was once a keep in a place that I don't remember the name of because I'm trying to say it off the top of my head, but it was there, Varnholm. And as you can see, this has labeled all of the different places you'll see. It's got some paths that your players can take. And I mean, this thing is just beautiful. It's just absolutely amazing. If you've seen the Stone Rift isometric map, basically, if I had it my way, everything we do from now on will have an isometric map of something. Even if it's a pantry for the cookbook 2, I need an isometric map of the spices on the spice rack.
I'm so in.
And, you know, if we kickstart it and it's a stretch goal, well, then we'll get it. But this thing is
Tim,
just
at the very
so
last
amazing.
minute. At the very last minute, Tim's going to be like, "Hey, I got an idea! An isometric map of a Christmas Carol." The staves are just jutting out at you.
So I think we should all just real quick go through and just say, like, what's your favorite part of this map? Matt, why don't you kick us off?
So I love that the if you go up to the sword shrine, I love the little sword and the little detail on the altar that the sword is sitting on. I love that so much. That's so cool.
What about you, Barks?
Go to the bottom. Go to the very bottom of the poster.
Don't you steal mine.
I know. I hope it's not yours. Just look at it. It looks cold. I'm freezing just looking at the frigid tomb.
Very
and
cold.
It looks colder than the other rooms, just in effect. Everything looks more frozen there. And the second thing, if I can pick two things, are all the roads and pathways going outward. So you can create your own extra dungeons and stuff.
Exactly. All the ones you see listed, the altar, the sword, these are all, you know, in the book if you've looked at the playtest. But then there are these other ones because we kind of talked about it and it didn't make sense for it to end there. Like this didn't make sense as a dwelling or a keep or anything if you couldn't like go somewhere else and do something. So yeah, that was important.
Well, what about you, Jim Jam?
I'm just going to think really hard about what yours might be. No, in all seriousness, for me, my favorite part is, this is going to be stupid because it's obvious, but it matches the descriptions we wrote. Like, it is so cool because it didn't feel like it completely cohesive to me until I saw what the players would see coming in, and they would see the sword train. Now, of course, it's up to you as a GM, if you're using this, to arrange these in any order you want. But once I really saw them, like, oh, this is one sort of permutation of it, it really like made it real for me. You could see them, you know, creeping down the stairs, and you could see all the holes in the kennel, and you see the destroyed. So mine is basically everything because this map is just, I love it so much.
So mine, you can stay right where you are. Mine is that if you look at the stonework that's inlaid on the floor and the pillars, it's so gorgeous and it matches the tomb. But what I love about it, because John has such a great eye for realistic design within fantasy, that's the Frozen King's hall. That's his lair. That's the only place where that intricate stonework exists.
Yeah.
I love that detail because it speaks of royalty. It speaks of a tomb. It speaks of something beyond the rest of the rooms. And I just think that's awesome. So I got to tell a story about that sarcophagus. When John was sketching it out, it looked like butter. And so it just looks like a stick of butter. It didn't have any designs on it. And so we, you know, at the time we're getting these, you know, and I love, it's like little Christmas where I get to open the designs on my phone. And so I'm like, oh. And so I'm like showing, you know, my family who happens to be there eating dinner. And so my mom notices this. And so we were kind of joking because we knew it was a work in progress. And we're like, oh, look, there's a stick of butter. Cut to 2 weeks later. We're here. We're eating dinner. Same group of people. And I'm like, oh, man, the finished map. And I'm showing it around on my phone. I'm showing it around. And my mom goes, oh, is it still butter?
That's what she was excited about.
Serious as a heart attack. Is it still butter? And we all knew what she was talking about. So anyway, it is not still butter. John crushed it as always.
And John is the kind of artist that you love to work with because he'll straight up tell you, listen, this is kind of dumb. Like the thing that you've got going on is unrealistic or doesn't fit or maybe, and he kind of provides that friction that causes a new fire to be born. It makes whatever you're asking for better in the long run every time without question.
Yeah, he stops you from making the half angel, half demon, half vampire.
Yeah.
He's like, no, pick one and let's do it right.
Otherwise known as the Quintret Copper Mist is.
Ooh.
Oh, that was
Blow.
fun. No, it
Shade.
wasn't. Quint's my favorite.
I wanna tell a really quick story about John Pintar and why he will always be my savior. And this was back when we were first starting. We had released, I believe we released Be a Better Battlemaster and Goblin Go-Karts already, and we were working on Wayward Wanderer, which was the first book that I was sort of in charge of, for lack of a better word. And the book was written, and we were moving into layout, and we were sort of realizing that we didn't have a good idea for the cover. And we were kind of going back and forth on the cover, and at this point, we didn't have art budget. We didn't really have money to be throwing around, and you know, nowadays we you know, the Kickstarter has been awesome for that, obviously, but you know, we usually make enough money on a previous book in order to fund the art for the next book. We didn't really have that going on at the beginning, so we were kind of throwing around ideas and weren't really sure what we were going to do. And this was about 2 weeks before the book was supposed to come out, and we were starting to freak out a little bit. I was stressing about the cover quite a bit because I had this image in my head of the cover. And I got an unsolicited email from one John Pintar, who I had worked with briefly in the past. He had done an awesome regional map for my online D&D campaign, The Provokers. And so we had been in contact a little bit, and he emailed me out of the blue and said, hey, Matt, this is a project that I did for like an art class that I'm doing. This was my final project. I was really inspired by your Provokers campaign, and I wanted to show you this piece that I did. And the piece was The Wayward Wanderer. And I will forever be mystified. We had not talked about what the book was going to be. We had not announced that we were working on The Wayward Wanderer. As far as I know, John didn't even know that we were publishing books yet. But he swooped in like an angelic Superman with this gorgeous piece of art of The Wayward Wanderer, this tower in my homebrew world, and the place that I had written this book about, the exact size, the exact aspect ratio that we needed. And I will never, ever forget that. And ever since then, I think John has had a hand in almost every book that we've done. He's one of our favorite artists to work with, and he's just a killer artist and a wonderful cartographer. So I will forever be in John Pintar's debt for that amazing Wayward Wanderer art that he sent to me and saved my life.
And early on, it was a really big bid to legitimize us as a publisher. I think it went a long way to show, like, hey, look, we're really trying to do this. And any cover I would have cooked up or we would have gotten from someone else that we couldn't really pay much for just would not be the same. And this was like, wow, these guys are really publishing RPG books. So I just am so thankful that happened.
I have the Wayward Wanderer loaded up. This is the art that we were talking about. Just incredible, incredible art. And if you were paying attention to my little thumbnail on the bottom of your feed, you'll be able to see just how slow my internet is as the Wayward Wanderer is slowly, pixel by pixel,
So yeah, that's on from John Pintar's website, I believe, and it is enormous. So
It's
it was
huge,
partly internet and partly a
God.
huge, beautiful photo.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
Also,
on the people. Oh, it's incredible.
yeah.
I was
it's-
going to say that little guy over on the left is Keenra, I think.
just imagine being
Yes.
having no idea what you're doing, a fledgling RPG publisher, 2 weeks before a book comes out, and you're considering drawing a cover yourself and just trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do, and someone sends you this and it perfectly captures the feel that you were going for, and it just works as a cover too. You can see where the title would go and everything. I will never get over that. And this is a very important piece of art to me and to Absolute Tabletop.
Yeah, man. So you guys, you want to do some Q&A?
Yeah, let's take some more questions. That sounds great.
So we have a bunch of questions to ask, but like we said earlier, go ahead and throw some more questions. We're going to, all the ones I saw we're about to answer. If you throw any more in, we'll answer, and that will absolutely bring us through the next 30 minutes. And if we wanted, like 2 years, because we can just keep talking. So throw any more questions you have, but we're going to start off. Like I said, I figure we'll just go down the list of the ones we have here. Sound good?
Okay. I think that sounds really good. Did you have a specific order? Because I was going to say, is now a good time to do the Josh question? Because I hate to make him wait until the very end, but we can.
He's next.
Um,
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we might as well go for it. I think the main thing is that we'll try not to sit too long on any particular question so that we can try and get through them all.
Yeah, like
in time.
Like a 15, 20-minute quick.
Yeah, dude, it'll only be 13 pages. It's only going to be a short answer.
13 pages. So I say we just go for that one, and it will make sure we, with all the questions after it, we'll make sure we don't spend too much time on it.
I have a quick answer for this one. So let me read it, and then I'd love to hear everybody's answer. We'd probably go through it quicker if we each answer one, but whatever. Josh says, I'm writing my own homebrew world. It's a guide similar to Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin because I love the way you guys do it. What would you say your top advice for writing a book like this is? My top advice, and I'll make it very quick, is so many campaign setting guides at their core go against the very fiber and nature of the collaborative spirit of tabletop RPGs because we mean well, but dungeon masters write a history and then hand it to other people. So where's the collaboration? Death, where is thy sting? No. Where's the collaboration if I finish the whole thing and hand it to you? So what we are doing in Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin, what I recommend you do, establish some pillars and then leave some things that are purposefully customizable for the dungeon master. That would be my number one tip.
So for me, it's to try to be as specific but broad as far as your question. What would you say your top advice for writing a book like this is? It is really not focusing too heavily on any one thing. And the other thing we're really doing is we are making sure that we tell you what our Dragon Grin is like, specifically Tim and I, but kind of like the absolute tabletop accepted canon Dragon Grin. But we encourage and in fact would almost prefer that you make it your own. This isn't a bunch of set history. Specifically, we're talking about Dead Man's Guide. This isn't a bunch of set history of, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. It's like, hey, here are some ideas. And so my advice would be to be okay with kind of leaving it open for your players. I mean, really just piggybacking on exactly what Tim said. Just like, don't make stuff so concrete. You know what I mean? Leave some pieces out there, throw some lines out, cast some nets, and let your players, get caught in one of them, basically. So try to think of that, but for writing the book. So don't answer all the questions to put it in one sentence.
This is less advice about that and more just about writing. Don't mix the writing and editing phases. It's easier to pull something out of the campaign setting than you're writing than it is to put something in. So every idea you write, you should ask yourself, where does this go in the world? And then put it there. And every idea you write should go in. And then later on, reevaluate, and decide what you want to take away. Decide what you want to leave open-ended. Decide what you want to. Maybe you don't like that idea much anymore. Maybe you like a new idea. The goal of the journey is to arrive at the same place you left from and see it for the first time. The goal is to, after a month or two of writing and thinking and pondering about this world, you get to the end and you just take a break. And then you go back and decide there, maybe not this, maybe this, and just kind of rearrange. And after a while, you'll start to get the idea of what your world is in your brain.
So I want to make sure this is immortalized on stream. What you're looking at says, I think mostly to Tim and James of Tabletop Terrors, NASA builds space elevator just for AbTab to do an elevator pitch.
I thought we were doing well, James and Josh.
No, we were, but that was still hilarious.
That's really funny. Mini Terrain Domain asked if we will only produce adventure kit type modules or will we produce more classic modules. I know for me, I can't imagine right now writing a traditional adventure module, and we have in the past. If you're interested in checking them out, we have a bunch on absolutetabletop.com. But for me, I'm so in love with the format of the adventure kit right now that's for the foreseeable future. I think that's going to be my medium for sort of delivering adventures. But I do enjoy writing traditional adventure modules too, and I don't want to say that we'll never do that again. I think that we probably will at some point.
Yeah, and this is like not something we've talked about. So this is James of his house and not James of Absolute Tabletop. But I can imagine sometime in maybe 5 or more years. We just came up on our 2nd anniversary of eventually publishing other people's stuff or working with other people to kind of curate more and allow us to do more things. And maybe, aside from any that we may do in that time, I like the idea that maybe we would publish other people's adventure modules and, they can do whatever they want. They don't have to be adventure kits. But, just like I said, James of his house, not of Absolute Tabletop. But like Matt said, definitely should see something that's an adventure module from us sometime. But definitely adventure kits is going to be more the way we go.
Yeah, to me, it would be a cool thing to go back to that format as a tool to do something special. Like if we redid or did an anniversary or a second Misty Meadows or a second Sewers Under Sandwall, a change to that form on purpose for that tone specifically. That format is a tool, and the tool that we can use easily between the 4 of us is the adventure kit. So yeah, totally agree.
Shonda, he told me how to say it. Shonda Jiso?
Jiso.
The Jiso.
Oh, I was like, we talked about this in person, and I was like, oh, I'm going to screw it up right on the stream. He said, with the success of the first Kickstarter, what are your plans for the next adventure kit? And is there anything you are going to do different? And I'll roll in a question we got recently because he said, oh, are there any plans in the works to do more style adventure kits in different environments in the future? Specifically, we've had a lot of questions about future adventure kits. And mostly what we've said is we haven't decided what our next one will be. And we have, I think, at least 2 products that will happen before an adventure kit comes out, like the next one after Oath. So really, we're not sure. We will absolutely be doing more adventure kits. It's unlikely that we will do a reskinned version of Frozen King, which sounds like sort of what you're saying. But we will be doing a bunch of different adventure kits that are, in a lot of different worlds and kind of cover a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, one thing that I kind of want to touch on is that we're all sort of tinkering with different adventure kit ideas behind the scenes. I know like Tim and I are kind of plugging away at sort of a Cthulhu-inspired adventure kit. And one thing that I think is really exciting is playing with the idea of adventure kits not just being dungeons, not just being generate a room, put an encounter in it, but having it be something take place in a town or in the wilderness or on a ship on the ocean, things like that. Like the adventure kit format is versatile enough where you can have it be anywhere and do anything. And so I think that that's really cool. And I think that we're all kind of excited at the possibilities of the adventure kit format. It's just very open, very versatile.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't forget about the other part of the question that I forgot about, which is there anything you would do different, whether in the adventure kit or on the Kickstarter, for anyone who wants to kind of tackle?
Just make it faster.
We learned a lesson about shipping We learned a lesson about shipping.
Sure.
That's kind of why we dipped our toe in the Kickstarter, is because we kind of learned some things about what is expected on both ends and the different processes that we need to go through to set things up. And it was kind of perfect because it didn't really create any problems. It actually allowed us to do this cool thing where we just paid for shipping, which was kind of awesome, and we're happy to do something like that. And now in the future, it's neat to know how to use the software that you're using. It's just really cool just to be proficient in the thing that you're trying to be proficient at. That's number one advice. To be good, you got to get good.
The key is to make it.
The key is to not get lost in the dark.
As far as would we change anything about the kits? Gosh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think that this is, well, we'll definitely find out when people use it at the table if there's any tweaks and things. But
yeah.
Because we did play test it in a very small kind of control group. But I would love to see kits. Let me tell you what I would love to see. I would love to see the first Ankea supplement. I would love to see an Ankea adventure kit. Like, imagine that. Like, Ruins of Hallow Hall, or so. Like, I just
or the Winds of Cerceline,
or the Winds of Cerceline. Any of that, I would love to see a Crore adventure kit. On the Blood Moon, I would just love to see that. Gloam, people have really latched onto that setting, and it's kind of so. I would love to see a Gloam adventure kit, and the cool part is, maybe we can put 2 out a year if we really put our nose to the grindstone and get it going. So we'll see, but that's what I would love to see, is just be sampling so that you could play in all of the worlds that we have. I'd love to see an Aeronaut adventure kit. So
yeah, I think it's important to note that while we don't think anything will change right now, we're not opposed to the idea of changing things. And I think that, Tim, what you're saying, like, people will be using these, they'll be having them at their table. It'll get in the hands of a lot of different game groups, and we're always open to feedback and different ideas. And so it might be that somebody says, hey, you know what I really use a lot at my table? I can't think of anything, but here's an idea for something you could put in an adventure kit. And if we think that that's a cool idea that people would get use out of course we will include it in a book. So
exactly, every supplement we've come out with has been different, and I think has shown improvements from the last, whether in layout or design or all different parts. And I think the adventure kits will be not be exempt from that in any way.
Right, and in that same spirit of, well, it's got to change. An Ankea adventure kit might be a couple of degrees off. We want to stick to the template-driven work because we know that it is proven to work. But you might see a table in the Ankea kit that isn't in any other kit about, how this battle was fought or something about Ankea, just because it fits. And then you might not see it ever again. But sometimes we'll look at a book and say, yeah, this needs this. So
yeah, or if we do like a Gloam adventure kit, there would be rules for like sanity and firearms and stuff that wouldn't be included in a normal adventure kit, just because those are things that are tied specifically to that setting that would be useful in that adventure kit. So let's see. We got a question from John Gaboy, who asks, how easy is it to alter the theme to a pirate adventure? And I'll just say really quickly that it's super easy to reskin this. We actually have ideas for how to reskin it in the book. And as someone who's run Oath multiple times, I reskinned it once totally on the fly and just replaced all the ice and snow with forest and wilds and stuff like that. And it worked out really nicely. So it's so super easy to reskin because it's not so built into it that it's intrinsically that one thing.
One of my favorite things about the kits is that you don't have to read the whole thing to use any of it. You could literally flip to a page and use what's on the page. That's it. So that's really helpful because you could flip to the encounters and make all of them take place on a huge pirate ship, and the players wouldn't know the difference if you just sold it.
Our next question comes from Blue Battle Gaming. In the book, is there a limit to the length of a name that a backer can get into the book? I don't think so, but I don't think we're gonna have trouble if you put a paragraph into whatever we supplied. I think in the Kickstarter survey, it's not gonna make it into the book. Some of it will be discretionary. If you just have a really long name, it's gonna go in there, as long as it seems like a real name that you were given and not a Daenerys type first of her name, like ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, so it'll be at our discretion. But if it seems like it's actually your name and you didn't put crazy stuff in there, it should be no problem.
Wielder of the chalice of the dew of the mountain.
And we're going to be sending out a few emails to people because we had a startlingly high number of people put their emails in the field for their names in the book. So we will be emailing you. Don't worry, we have your emails because you gave them to us.
Exactly.
We want to put as many backers as we can into the book, but obviously there will be some people that we won't be able to get a hold of and stuff. So
SlinkyDigty65 at AOL.com. You need to email your parents and find out your birth name.
Yeah, it's very important, obviously, that we don't print anyone's email in the book. So we'll be contacting those people.
Email your parents. Yell upstairs, Slinky.
Yell upstairs.
65. Just yell.
Or downstairs. It might be an attic situation.
Or downstairs.
Is Slinky Dinky my government name?
Check for Traps asks, what is the biggest difference between the creation process of, say, Horror at Misty Meadows, Sewers Under Sandwall, etc., other adventures we've written, like standard modules, versus the adventure kit? And I would say, for me, the biggest difference would be that I feel like it's easier for us to all attack an adventure kit, whereas with a module, you have to make sure everything fits together really well. I think that there are advantages on both sides, but the adventure kits are easier for the way our company works, where we all write it and edit and throw ideas out and talk about it. So the biggest difference is one of them is fairly linear and kind of the story is mostly decided by one person and we kind of workshop it and then mess with it. Whereas the adventure kits are so easy to go in and say, I had a cool idea for an NPC, here we go. And we're kind of relying on people to put the pieces together because they're going to do that anyway when they prep their game.
For old adventures, like James said, we have to literally know the story. And there can be milky parts, but we have to know this is how it starts, this can happen in the middle, and this is the end. And so getting everybody into a hangout and hashing that out, we usually are on the same page, but you have to hash out the whole thing before you all dive in and start writing. With the adventure kits, it's here's the vibe. Make a location, whatever you want. It's a castle with ice. So just have fun with it. And then we bring those pieces together and it's a cooler finished product because there's variety, not plug everything into this storyline. It's like, yeah, do whatever you want and let's make it work later.
Yeah. What you're looking at, Josh says, what's the biggest takeaway from Kickstarter that you'll take to the next one? For me, like Barker said earlier, part of the reason we did Oath was because it was relatively smaller than things we plan on kickstarting in the future. And we wanted to get a handle on what it will look like and how, printing will work when we know we need X amount of orders and what it's like to hand it out, get it to everybody. I would say the biggest takeaway, I have two. One, the number you see on the campaign is not the amount of money we receive, which, for various reasons, which is interesting. It shouldn't change anything, but it's just, it's kind of a different world. So when you see those Kickstarters that hit $1 million, they aren't getting $1 million. And I find that was pretty interesting. And then two is that Kickstarter is not the best when it comes to the surveys. If you've backed something and you see people use BackerKit, that allows them to have more control over the surveys. And that makes their lives a little bit easier. For example, we can't fix the problem with names. We have to manually email people because they can't update their surveys except for their shipping address, which is kind of too bad. Also, BackerKit allows you to add on stuff. So if we wanted to say, have extra stuff where you just want the poster, but you don't want this whole stretch goal, it's a little easier, and we might take advantage of something like that in the future.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing is taking advantage of something like BackerKit, because I think from just the campaign standpoint, I think that the campaign went better than obviously better than we could have anticipated. We asked for $500, so obviously it went better than we anticipated. But just the follow through, making sure that we don't create more work for ourselves in the production of the book. Not that we have in Oath, but just going forward, we're going to be doing bigger books on Kickstarter. Potentially having more backers, and so making sure that we put in place contingencies and lots of tools for us to use in contacting people, getting people's information, and making sure that all of that works is really important. So yeah, I think that that's probably one of the big things that we'll look into for the next one.
So we're sort of getting to the end here. We've got a few more, and we're going to try and answer all these. Redium, or if you read it like Redium, I'm not sure. Will there be news on a Be a Better Campaign Master 2 soon, or possibly now? I would have to throw that over to Barker to see how he feels about answering that question.
Possibly now. Like, hold on. Will there be a Better Campaign Master 2 possibly now? Is that how the question is?
They're looking for an announcement. Like, will there be news of a Campaign Master 2? And they would love it if you told us more about it in this moment and didn't say it later.
Yeah, for sure. Check your email, Radium, because it's there. No, so one of the cool things about
writing checks.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be super quick with this. One of the things about Oath of the Frozen King that we've mentioned before is we're not just making Oath of the Frozen King. Matt is designing the layout for basically every adventure kit in the future. I kind of wanted the same thing for Be a Better Game Master stuff. I want them to be modular. I want them to be consistent. I want you to know what you're getting into. I want, there are some cool things that we've done that Oath has inspired us to do. These tightening, locking down of formats and layouts and such. And that's what I'm excited about with the Be a Better Game Master stuff. I think, you know what? I think I'm not going to say, I will say that Be a Better Campaign Master 2 will come out when that template, so to speak, is kind of there, when we're ready to move forward with it. But I will say, keep your eyes open. I don't want to talk about it too much now, guys, unless you guys want to. But I'll say, keep your eyes open.
Oh, that's cool.
For a Be a Better Game Master supplement to pop out at some point in the near future that you can keep yourself posted. I'm trying not to write checks. I'm trying to write checks
that's fair.
in blurry cursive that you can't really understand what it's for.
I will say this, and this is something that I am excited about. Campaign Master 2, a rough draft of that book, exists right now, and it is amazing. And it is exactly what you want it to be. It's when the most recent Star Wars came out and you were like, oh God, yeah, yes. It's that feeling when I go through just that rough draft. So we're working on it, but we all think of a great metaphor where there's a bunch of pots to fill and all of us are just filling it one drop at a time as we run around. We're working on a lot of stuff, but only one thing can get our full focus at once. But there is a killer draft of Campaign Master 2 that I'm excited to work on over the holidays.
Yeah,
I'm just excited to be able to do the layout on it, so Matt and James don't have to die every quarter once.
Yeah. RP Geography says, any plans to build out Gloam? I'm a little bit enamored with it. I need you to know, RP Geography, that I am as well. And that we absolutely going to do something with it. I think something we can certainly announce. We're going to set up a little website like the Lorium Archives, if you've seen that for Harbinger. It's just a little place you can go. You can send people to get an idea for what Gloam is. But in the future, whether it's an adventure kit or something else, we definitely plan on publishing stuff about Gloam, because I also love it. And again, it comes back to, we make what we'd use. We're going to make Gloam because we love playing in Gloam, or at least I certainly do. Sorry, I'm kind of going through these, but if anybody wants to chime in, they can feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to hit the next one. We're kind of running out of time here.
Well, I was just going to say, it's up to you guys. Did you want to finish out the ones we have currently, or do you want to just wrap up with one final question?
We're going to finish out these last couple. Yeah. Okay. We have these two questions we're going to do at the very end, but we have two more before that we got that I think we can knock out real quick.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
So Chris Johnson asked about AtCon, the Absolute Tabletop Convention 2018. We just did our 2017 convention in July, and it was really awesome, and it was great. And definitely we plan on doing another one in the future, basically. We're going to do one for 2018. There's no question currently, but beyond that, we have no idea about anything about it, except for that it will be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that we can kind of assume that it's going to be bigger. We don't want to have it be huge, but we filled Tacoma Games to capacity for the first AtCon. So I think for the second one, we'll be looking at other venue possibilities for more space, obviously. So, but yeah, you can definitely plan on AtCon 2018 happening, and I think that we'll probably be talking about it more as the year turns over here.
Yeah, we'll definitely announce and come up with something, but there are a lot of details to figure out and a bunch of stuff we want to do. We need to do before then. So
yeah, conventions are incredibly time-consuming to plan and organize, and there's only 4 of us, and we also want to publish books, so it's really difficult for us to find time for it. But yes, it is happening.
Exactly. RPGeography had another question. Were you at all surprised with the response on Kickstarter? My favorite. Exactly. Easy answer, yes. My favorite statistic is we are a very small publishing company, but nearly 50% of the people that backed Oath of the Frozen King, so that's some of you people out there, found it through Kickstarter. Likely didn't know who we were, found it through Kickstarter, and they backed us. So that was amazing, and we're definitely going to use Kickstarter in the future for other things because it was really cool to be able to get out there to so many people. It also helped us to know it's an easier way because we know how much we should spend on the book based on what people give us, whereas in the past, we have no idea what we're doing and we just, I don't know, guessed. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, it was, I will never forget that the sensation of sitting there that morning and watching us hit the goal and exceed it in about 10 minutes, and then it just didn't stop for a month. And that was just one of the coolest things. And obviously it's cool to have people pledging and giving us money in order for us to really make the book awesome and get cool art like the isometric map that we showed you, which wouldn't have been possible without Kickstarter. But also just the sheer number of people and the people who are like, I've never heard of Absolute Tabletop. This seems really cool. I'm going to go check out some of your other books. I'm going to back at this level and get every PDF you've ever made. For me, the best part about publishing RPG books is having people hold our RPG books and use them and talk about them and run games using them. And so the Kickstarter allowed us to reach out to people who had never heard of us, who weren't involved in our community, and we were able to pull them in and show them what we can do. And that's just been really cool and really rewarding.
I'm bad at this. So
I was just going to say, this is important. I want to say this is in a couple of interviews, people would say, come on, you guys had to know. I mean, like, you're just being humble. And I'm telling you, my hand on Galactus, Eater of Worlds, I promise you, we had no idea that we were going to really hit the $500 mark. And that seems crazy, but James put it best. We are consistently surprised because we didn't think, we thought, okay, maybe we'll hit $1,000 in 30 days. And that is the God's honest truth. And so for the response, we were like, what? No, what? And then as it kept going, we were totally floored. And I don't think I ever want that feeling to go away when we do something cool.
Exactly. Absolutely. 2000 was like my, in the absolute best case scenario, if we get an article on Geek and Sundry, and I don't know. C.A. Hollenbach, I skipped your question on accident. That's my fault. I don't think that there will be a Bleak themed adventure kit, maybe one day, but we will certainly be in later books, wink, wink, talking a lot more about the Bleak. So definitely wait until Tim answers the next 2 questions, and then you'll know more about what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think.
I gotta go. I actually gotta go. I gotta go talk. Here.
So specifically, yeah, we have 2 more questions we're going to answer. We thought we'd end on these. So in Counterbalance asked, have you ever thought about doing setting kits? It seems like it'd be pretty easy to take the same process from a world building angle instead of a campaign angle. And then at some other point, JON asked, with Oath of the Frozen King. Oh, actually, we'll do that last because I forgot. It's basically, JON asked, what's the next thing we're going to see from AbTab? Is it Harbinger? Is it something else? And I think Tim is ripe to answer that.
So do you guys want to just go ahead and announce it now? Like roll those 2 into one, basically?
Secret ballot.
Yeah, basically, what's our next product, and will we ever do setting kits?
So I'm happy to announce that we will be doing setting kits, and we have been working on a Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, and you've heard a lot about that. If you follow Tabletop Terrors on YouTube, or if you've seen in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group, It's our setting James and I made, and then Barker and Matt expanded and broadened. And we decided that in writing this book, we could make a campaign setting guide and do exactly what I talked about earlier, which was write a history book and then hand it to you. But again, that's against the soul of why I love RPGs. So I'm happy to announce that our next Kickstarter and our next big project coming in 2018 is a Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, a campaign setting guide and world building toolkit for creating your own dark fantasy realm. So we are officially announcing that Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin is going to be a dark fantasy campaign setting, but also the very first world building toolkit from Absolute Tabletop. So imagine the adventure kit on the scale of building your own world. And we're going to start it with Dragongrin.
Yeah, and I've just looking at what we have in Dead Man's Guide already it is like an adventure kit, but it's a way for you to explore Dragongrin the way you want to explore it, focus on the aspects that appeal to you, and really make it unique for you and your game group. And I've never seen a campaign book like this before, and I think that it's how people use campaign settings. People don't run Forgotten Realms as written. They run their version of the Forgotten Realms. And so we're basically meeting you halfway with Dead Man's Guide and basically saying, we know how you're going to use this book. No matter how we write it, we know how you're going to use it. So we're going to make it easier for you to use it the way you want to use it.
Exactly. And as for what people are saying, that is a book that, assuming nothing changes, we plan on kickstarting next year. I think that's about as firm as a timeline we're going to give. But it is definitely something you will be able to give us money for in not too long.
And we would say that we're shooting for early next year.
Yeah.
We're waiting to see how things fall, because one of the things we've always promised each other is that we're never going to kickstart a book that isn't almost entirely finished, because that's just wise. And it's how we can make sure that it's the best. We never want to rush anything. And this isn't about just putting it out there. It's about making something we'd use. And so early next year. And if you guys are cool with it, I was just going to share a quick example of something you might find in a Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, showing how you can make a campaign world modular. Would you guys be cool with that real quick?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely.
So one
This
of
is
the
where
biggest...
Tim usually trolls us and shows us a fake image or a picture of like
It's so true.
his mom in a T-shirt or the party cleanup lion. Like, yeah.
No carny mom here. One of the biggest pieces of the Dragongrin mythos is the Dismembered Lord, our big bad. And when you try to quantify a legend, this idea, it will always fall flat if you try to do it yourself in one way, because that's not how legends work. Legends are solely reliant on the interpretation of the listener. And so with that said, we are absolutely going to commit to what our Dragongrin is. There will be no cop-out. You will know Tim and James believe this. But then we're going to give you an opportunity to say, but what do you believe? And that is what we think is the biggest difference between this setting and other setting guides. So if you go to the Dismembered Lord section, which is already in progress in the Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, there's a section called Beginnings of a Dark Lord. And it talks about a man, and it goes through and explains how he came to be the Dismembered Lord. And there are 3 pillars: his beginnings, how he harnessed the bleak, and then how he actually rose to power. What if we gave you the beginnings of the tone and feel of all of those pillars, but then you customized your specific beginnings? So what if your Dismembered Lord is, I'll actually roll on the table. Your Dismembered Lord is a simple foot soldier, nearly killed by a paladin of the Holythic Church, but he made it back to his people and was knighted a hero. That's your Dismembered Lord. We'll tell you what ours is, but there's a generator telling you what yours is. And that is how we're going to do it. A pillar that we commit to and then a piece underneath it that's modular so that it all matches up, similar to the adventure kits.
Yeah, basically, you've seen the adventure kits. If you've seen the playtest, it's going to be that for campaigns. And the beauty there will be that we get to write a Dragon Grin, campaign setting, basically, that we get to use, that you get to see a lot of really cool stuff, but it's not a history book. I think that's going to be really exciting. Is there anything else we want to do? I think that completes everything we set out to do, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. And we went for just over an hour and a half, and we showed you guys, we talked about the process, we talked about how the book has come together, we showed you some of the art and some of the layout, and answered a bunch of questions. So yeah, I think that about does it for us. So I'll go ahead and sign us off here, if that's okay, guys.
So actually, a couple things we might as well cover again.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
This video is hosted on the Absolute Tabletop YouTube channel. We don't plan on necessarily making videos for this like we would on our own channels, but we're definitely going to put other stuff here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to, get updates for that kind of stuff. This is our only video, and I think it's unlisted except for like a video Matt did. And then in the same respect, if you guys enjoyed engaging with us, hearing us talk, and you are interested in seeing that more and meeting some of these fine people that were hanging out in the chat with us, visit the Absolute Tabletop official group on Facebook. Go ahead and join there, and you'll see us making posts, a couple of thousand people making posts, learn about our products, hear about our newest stuff, the Gloam we're talking about, Harbinger we're talking about, all kinds of stuff like that. Definitely make sure you do that if you want to see more of us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of links down in the description. Go ahead and check them out. There's the newsletter, the group, the Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. So definitely check it out if you want to keep up with us and what we're doing. So thank you, everyone, for coming and hanging out with us for a little while, asking a bunch of great questions. And it's always nice to just hang out and chat with you guys. And like we've said this a million times, but we'll never be able to say it enough. Thank you, everyone who's backed us and supported us. If you've been with us from the beginning, if this is your first time interacting with us, thank you so much. Obviously, we love writing RPG books and being involved in this community. And it makes it all the more rewarding that we're able to put our stuff in the hands of people who are going to use it. So thank you again, everyone. Take care. Happy gaming all, and we'll see you all again soon.